Thanks for tuning in once again to another Saturday night NASCAR video here on Proline TV as we take a look at the starting lineup for the Goodyear 400 from Darlington Raceway. We're going to go over the speed charts. We got the updated odds once again. That's the reason we're doing this late. And we're also going to update you on a lot of key trends that have an impact that we spoke about and we speak about every Tuesday. And hopefully you'll join us on a Tuesday show because those Tuesday shows are very impactful and says a lot about really not just my opinion, but we get CJ's opinion. And of course, he's the expert of the two. So valuable information. If you've failed to check that out, please do when you have some time. Otherwise, we're here every Saturday to let you know what's going on after practice and qualifying. And Darlington is one of those tracks that, especially nowadays with the whole Group 1 and Group 2 practice split up, where practice just doesn't mean anything. It just doesn't. You don't find anything out in practice at Darlington. I think if anything, the only thing it's good for maybe is if a driver happens to do really well in practice and he also does really well in qualifying. And maybe that just gives him a little bit of an extra edge. But other than that, I really wouldn't put too much into it. Okay, so therefore, of course, we're going to start out with qualifying and the pole sitter being Tyler Reddick. That's right, Toyota on the front row, as you can see there. Interesting, they're on the front row, but you really have to go down to Denny Hamlin at number 9 for the next Toyota. And then after that, Riley Herbst at 14. And then we're going to go all the way down to John Hunter Nemechek at 21st. So it's, it's interesting to be the top two, and yet it wasn't like the entire manufacturer contingent had a big day. Chevy, meanwhile, were 1-2 right after. Matter of fact, we had one of those deals where you had Toyota, top 2, Chevy, 3-4, Ford, 5-6, even though Ford went 5-6-7. So that pretty much evens things out for manufacturers. And again, practice, we don't care too much about at all. We'll pop it up. But really doesn't mean Matt. Hey, tell you what, let's just throw it in there now so you can take a look at it. So, look, this is all you need to see. Riley Herbst is second. Michael McDowell's in there, and Suarez and Cindric and Jones and Berry. It's not the time. Matter of fact, out of the top 10 fastest drivers in practice, let's see, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them came from Group 1. All right. And that was the weaker of the two groups. Okay. So that's really all you need to know about that. Now, if you want to take a look at some really eye-popping numbers, you got to go to the Penske boys, Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney. But then again, I think this is kind of something we've seen lately from these boys so far this season in practice. I don't know what they're tinkering with. They know what they're doing. Especially Blaney, because we've seen that translate to Sundays with Blaney, who will do better in qualifying. But so far, it hasn't really clicked for Logano, but that's okay. Joey will get it done. He always does on an even year. And Chase Elliott also, for me, since Chase was one of my top picks, very disappointing to see Chase 33rd to start off. Even Christopher Bell was 25th. Look at Bubba, 27th. So, yeah, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about practice, okay? Don't worry about it. Okay, so, but I just wanted to at least show you what the practice speeds were in case you'd like to worry about it. Let's get to the rest. And as you see here, there's Byron 13th, and we still have a ways to go before we see that the other Toyota, Christopher Bell, 22nd, Chase Briscoe, 23rd, Eric Jones, who was the fastest in practice, 24th, but again, he was with the first group. Ty Gibbs, 28th. That's for the Toyotas. Also, Byron, 13th for a Chevy. you got to come down here, and Chastain 25th, another Chevy. But that's it. Not a lot of disappointing Chevys in qualifying. And for Ford, you see here, I think there's really only one that sticks out, and that's Joey Logano, 29th. So Toyota really had the most disappointing manufacturer outside. Let's just put it this way. If Toyota did not have Reddick and Wallace on the front row, they would be the third of three manufacturers. But we're going to even this out. It's anybody's race. And I guess that's exactly what we want to see, isn't it? So there you go. Now, what do we make out of this? Well, let's dive into it. But by doing that, what I want to do is I want to pop up the odds. And let me get the odds here for you. Got a slider over. Okay, there you go. So there's your top 10 in odds. And I'm going to also slide in the contenders. These are the top contenders. Okay. And what you'll see is the way that I placed it, especially for the top 10, these are just the top 10 in post position. See, pole position. So it's just the top 10, no matter who they are every week. That's how we're going to do it. And then whatever their odds are. And then for the contenders, that's going to be the drivers who we feel are the best of the rest, who did not make the top 10, but we're going to stick with the format here on this side of going in order of pole position. And that's it. That's the only. So that's no alphabetical, no our favorites, no, just sticking with pole position for both of these each week. But again, these are the contenders here. I think we have, what do we have? 3, 6, 11, I think, contenders. All right, so let's go through this. So Reddick is the favorite, but what really sticks out here, and look, I think this is a really good opportunity tomorrow to make some money, both for just throwing a few bucks on the race and fantasy wise. And the reason I believe that is, well, look, the odds. It's really. I think it's a little out of whack, and that's a good thing. And I think I believe it probably will change a little bit before race day tomorrow. Okay, and so let's try to take advantage of this. Okay, because look, Tyler Reddick would never be 3-1 if he hadn't started the season with 3 straight wins. Okay, he would be sitting there at 5-1, something like that. Maybe he wouldn't even be the favorite. Maybe Kyle Larson would be the favorite. But he's got the 3 wins. And look, I said this the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to stick to it until I get beat. But Tyler Reddick is going to have to beat me again as long as I don't get value from him. Because now that he's pulled off the 3 straight win deal, you're not going to get any value this early in the season. You got to, and I don't, I'm sorry, I'm not going to buy in that Tyler Reddick is one of the top championship contenders right now. It's way too early for me to buy into that. And I just think that when you've accomplished something as great as he has, and the team has, and everything about what they did, which was great, you got to congratulate them. Absolutely 100% awesome. This isn't about that. This is about trying to always find value. And that's exactly what we're doing here. And I don't see, first of all, value, and then throw in the fact that the odds of him winning a 4th race already this season, to me, is really hard to do. Also, keep in mind, coming into this race, Tyler Reddick already had an average starting spot of 5.5 when he finished second in this race 3 times. All right, so we already know he's got the ability to win here because he's come close, and he's led over 300 laps over 13 races, which is pretty good. Of course, all of his top accomplishments have come during next gen in the last 8 races. All of his top 5s there, 5 in total, 2 last year with a runner-up. So his start is 5.5. His average finish is 9.6, and that includes the 3 runner-ups. So look, he hasn't won here before. He's trying to win a 4th time already. And when I go through the practice speeds, because what I try to do is I look at Tyler Reddick and I say, okay, he was 6th fastest in practice, but he was 2nd fastest in Group 2. And that's important because Group 2 were the better drivers and really were behind the 8 ball because of the way that the track was laid down by Group 1. And you have to look at it that way. So Reddick was 6th fastest overall practice, but 2nd in his group. So he was really good today. He was the best driver today, and it wasn't even close. That's why he's 3-1. But so look, if you want to go down that road with Tyler, if you already made some money on Tyler Reddick this year, go for it. Always stick with that. I'm just not going to do it, and I'm going to bet against it at 3-1. All right, next. We'll go in order. Bubba, come on now. We've been all over Bubba, as you know, over the last several weeks. CJ was the one that first pointed it out after, I think it was after the Super Speedway races. No, actually, it was after the Texas race, the road course race. And he's now 2nd in points. He's off to his best start ever. And remember, he hasn't won yet. Reddick's won, who's been winning, his teammate. And yet here you got Bubba Wallace now at 16-1. And he's right there beside Tyler Reddick on the front row. Now, he wasn't as fast in practice, but who cares? Okay? And if anything, hey, good. I'm glad his numbers weren't great in practice. Maybe that helped with the odds. Remember this, though, as we said the other day, Bubba has a 7.2 average starting position coming into today in his last 7 races at Darlington. That's, without question, Bubba's best track. So Bubba really likes this racetrack. And he's red hot on the season. He gets off to a great start. 2nd on the pole here, front row. And that's really looking good. You want to know why it's good? Because qualifying means everything at Darlington. Screw practice. We don't care about practice. But in qualifying, 15 of the last 21 winners at this racetrack started in the top 10. The ones outside of that range from 13th to 18th. Okay, so if we draw a line, then that means drivers like Christopher Bell and Chase Briscoe, Ty Gibbs, Joey Logano, they're out of luck based on that trend. Because that's 21 of the last 21 all started 18th or better. Doesn't mean it can't be broken. Trends are always made to be broken, but there you have it. 9 of the last 11 started in the top 8. And that means Denny Hamlin, a little bit behind the 8 ball there as the top guy that has to deal with that trend. And how about the last 4 winners? They all started in the top 2 rows. No pole sitters in there. 2 seconds, 2/3. And that bodes pretty well for 2 of the best choices you're going to want on Sunday, Bubba Wallace and the next driver, Chase Elliott. Chase was my 2nd pick. Bubba was CJ's 2nd pick on Tuesday. And look, Chase had no reason, no right to be in the position he was in on Sunday, last Sunday. No right. There was no history at all at that racetrack for Chase Elliott last week. None. And he still found a way to finish 2nd. No history, and he didn't look good on Saturday, and yet he still finished 2nd. That means something to me, or at least I felt that. That's why I looked 14-1. He does have 4 top 5s over his career. He's never won here. He doesn't have great numbers, but 14-1, that's where value kicks in. Also, how about this? And this is what we talked about the other day. If Chase Elliott could qualify well, we would be even in a better position. And now we are, because in his last 6 races, his average starting position is 20th. And his average finishing position in those last 6 races is 9.8. So he has gained basically 10 positions on average in the last 6 races here at Darlington. He is a slam dunk fantasy driver for me. And he's still 14-1. He was 14-1. This is the thing that's interesting. Now, Wallace moved up. He moved up from 25-1. But we couldn't believe it was still 25-1 on Tuesday. That's why you got to listen to the Tuesday shows. 25-1, we still got. Now, 16-1 is still a good number. Hey, go get it, because I still think that's going down tomorrow. And if it doesn't, well, good for us. Chase Elliott, meanwhile, was 14-1 last week, on Tuesday, and he's still 14-1, and he's sitting there third. We just told you the trends of who wins here. But maybe like Bubba, they're taking a look at the practice speeds. We don't care. He was 33rd in practice, 12th in Group 2. Kyle Larson will start 4th, back-to-back Hendrick cars. Look at the difference. I get 14-1 with Elliott, Larson 5-1. It's the same thing. I get 16-1 with Wallace to 3-1 with Reddick. They're both teammates. Why would I want 5 and 3-1 when I can get 14 and 16-1? Larson has been up and down at this track. He's been really good here, and he's been really bad here. It's typical hit or miss. Nearly half of his results here over 16 races have been in the top 5. He also has 1 win. He's led over 1,000 laps. But check this out. In the next gen, he has 2 top 5s and a win. But you want to know what also he has in the next gen and the other 6 results? An average of 26.3. Including last year when he finished 19th and 37th, leading just 2 laps combined. It's too volatile. Too volatile. No way. I am getting a couple of extra. I will say this. If I'm picking Reddick or Larson, I will take Larson. Because I just can't take Reddick at 3-1. And look, we talk a lot about SVG and you know, we mentioned last year that, hey, if you can, once you started to win in the short, in the road courses, okay, that's it. As long as you can get plus, even, anything plus on Tuesday, which we have been in every single race since. On Tuesday, we get plus with SVG on a road course, take them. Now, if you weren't with us a few weeks ago, you might be saying, well, you lost the other day. Yeah, but we didn't. Because even though we took SVG, we also took Reddick. And Reddick was a bonus. It was a great value pick on Tuesday. And then his number came down. I think his number came down to like 3-1 on race day after being like 9-1 or something like that on Tuesday. But that's what the deal. So my point is that it's very rare that we'll buy into that. But the number we've always talked about, like that Mendoza line, if you want to call it, what is that line that we say? Yeah, it's NASCAR. It's anything can happen. There's too much uncertainty, pit stops and other cars getting into you and flat tires and who knows what can take place. That it just doesn't make sense to take a driver less than, well, it's usually 3-1. 3-1 is like that number where it's like, I don't think so. It's got to be really, really, really good. Like a driver that is just an awesome driver who's awesome at that track and who's racing awesomely recently. Something like that for us to go, okay, we'll buy you 3-1. But normally it's more like 4 or 5-1. If anything's under 4 or 5-1, no value, not going to do it. And if we lose, we lose. That's it. I'm not chasing 3-1 in NASCAR. But 5-1, okay. It's still, But if you're asking me Larson or Reddick, I would take Larson, but I'm not taking either of them. Especially with the volatility of Larson, who was 16th in practice, 6th in Group 2. Again, But those are your top 4 drivers. That's where the Darlington winners come from the last 2 years. Next up, Keselowski, Buescher, Blaney. Now we get 3 Fords, and all 3 of these Fords have value, starting with definitely the top 2. Keselowski, if you take a look at it, he won a couple years ago. Since the win, his average starting position was 21.3. Now he's starting 5th. His practice was 22nd, 9th in Group 2. And that win just a few years ago with outside of Penske is a good sign. And we know Brad is I don't know, kind of like feeling it with Brad lately. I mean, he's sitting there 12th in points. He was 10th at Las Vegas. So, yeah, I think Brad is look at him. He's sitting there at 16-1 at 5th position. Now, the only bad thing about that is that on Tuesday, you could have had Brad Keselowski at 30-1. But just like Wallace, hey, 16-1, not bad. Buescher was another one of the drivers that we really liked as a long shot. And he was 25-1. He's still 25-1. How about that? And yet he's starting 6th. His average starting position in his last 6 races here is 12.8. So that is an excellent sign for Buescher. In the last 6 races here, his average starting position is 12.8. His average finish is 10.8. And that includes a 30th place finish in the 2024 race, in this race in 2024. So if you throw that out, his average finish is a lot better compared to his average start. So a good fantasy driver who's trending in the right direction after a 6th place finish last week. Then you have Ryan Blaney. Mentioned how slow he was in practice, but that's okay because he came back and a strong run in qualifying. Now, this has not been a good history track for Blaney, but as we mentioned earlier this week, Blaney's best race was this race last year. He had the lead with 5 laps to go. Larson brings out the caution. Hamlin gets out faster than Blaney, which is typical. Hamlin's team is better than Blaney's pit crew. And if you are on the outside at Darlington on a green-white checkered, the outside wins. It's over. You're done. Now, Blaney, unfortunately, his history says don't take him because his starting position 10.2, average finish at 18.7. But the only reason why he's not bad is because he's 12-1. And to see Ryan Blaney as 7th in qualifying to be 12-1, that is value. But I do like other drivers better, including Bubba Wallace. I can get Bubba. I can get Keselowski. I'd rather take both of them, tell you the truth, at 16. And of course, everybody knows Ryan's my boy. Then you've got Busch, Hamlin, and Dillon. The interesting thing, of course, about Kyle Busch is he has never led a lap with RCR. 6 races, no laps led. But the good news is in the last 3 races, all top 10s, including a runner-up. When he had the runner-up, he started 17th. When he was 8th in the race last year, he started 23rd. That's a good sign for fantasy, but he is starting 8th. So if he doesn't lead laps or finish in the top 5, he may not be a fantasy driver. Denny Hamlin starting 9th, average starting position 8.4. So he's right where he normally is coming into this week's result. Solid practice number 14th, 5th in Group 2. We know how good Denny is. Denny was the favorite. Now, look, you're getting, where is he? Where's Denny? 8-1. He is really excellent value now. It's very rare that I'll say you'll get value at 8-1, but you do. I mean, Denny's been 4-1 all week, and and he's been lower than that, and deservedly so. He's got 5 wins. He's defending champ. He's led over 1,000 laps. In his last 5 races, he has 4 top 10s, 2 top 5s, and a win. Again, defending champ of this race. He was on the pole in the fall, finished 7th. And in the 2023 fall race, which was the 5th race ago, he led 177 laps. His average start is 8.4. His average finish is 7.9. Coming off a win, there's no reason to think he won't continue to have a good week this week and maybe win back-to-back races. You want Tyler Reddick at 3-1 when I can get Denny Hamlin at 8-1? Okay. Austin Dillon. Not sure what that's about, to tell you the truth, because he's never shown anything here. Nothing in practice, but boom, something happened. I don't know what it was, but top 10, good for him. Now let's check out the contenders. And Suarez really, that's kind of surprising because he was really fast in practice and he followed up with a good run here in qualifying, but he doesn't have a big history here. So I really can't, even though it's a nice number, because it is, I don't know. I just think there are better options, including Cindric. We know Cindric's been fast on race day, and that's why he is once again a really solid choice. Cindric was CJ's long shot pick of the week. If you look at Cindric's career here, it's nothing great, but what sticks out about Cindric is that in the, where is it? When Cindric in his last, why can't I see it here? There it is. I really was surprised that he was 65-1 on Tuesday. That's why I couldn't find his numbers. But now he's down to 33-1 from 65-1. And yet he's only starting 12th. Why? Well, his practice run was good. He was with Group A, and he was third fastest. But but again, you got to remember about Darlington. When you have some young drivers, it's very, very difficult to race here in Cup. We know in the series in general, but experience at Darlington is one of those that is really hard for young drivers. Not that Cindric is a young pup anymore, but still, overall, he is still kind of inexperienced. And he needs experience. And in his last 3 races, look, he doesn't have a top 10 in 8 races, and he's never led a lap. But in his last 3 races, he's got an average starting position of 9 and an average finish of 12th. That's much better. Throw in the fact that he's doing really good on race day, and he just needs to have luck on race day, just like Chase Briscoe. So at 33-1, not a bad idea. William Byron, I don't know. See, this is kind of tough because he's 9-1. And he was 8-1, I believe, on Tuesday. So there's no value here. His average starting position is 9.9. So starting 13th is actually not all that great. His practice speed was fine. And if you look at it, he only has 1 career win. He was second in this race last year from the pole. See, this is the thing. Byron dominated this race last year. Led 243 of 297. But he was out of sequence with the pitting, fuel mileage, all that. And that's the reason that he ended up finishing second. Looked like Reddick was going to win. Then Blaney passed him. Then the caution came out and Hamlin stole the race. But Byron is trending in the right direction. Third last week. But his average start, 9.9, average finish, 15.4. Now he's starting a little bit further back. So I don't know. I think there are better options, but and especially because he's 13th. Remember, we want these drivers a little bit further up, but he's still at least on that line that it has happened over the last 21 races, so he's not a bad option. I just don't know if you're getting good value there. Carson Hocevar, he was 4th fastest at Group 1. That's good in practice. The qualifying number, at least it's in the top 20, and he was 9th in the fall. So, not bad. 30-1, though. I think I want more than that. Joe Nemechek, I throw him on there because he's teammates, of course, with Eric Jones, and Eric Jones really likes this track. He's got 2 wins. He was 3rd in the fall, 20.5 average starting position. So this isn't new to him. Average finish, 12.8. So Eric Jones is a really good fantasy option. He was the fastest in practice from Group 1. Also, Christopher Bell, Chase Briscoe, very disappointing. You can't take these guys. I think the only good thing about them are the odds. I mean, Bell was 9-1 when we started the week. Briscoe was 8-1 when we started the week. So that's the only thing. Bell's average starting position is 13.4. So this is not a good sign. And Chase Briscoe's average starting position in the last 3 races, 3rd with 2 wins. And yet he's starting 23rd. and he was 17th in practice, 7th in Group 2. Bell was 25th in practice, 10th in Group 2. So again, the only thing that's good about those two drivers are the odds right now. But 22 and 23 to start all the way back here, I think you got better options. Ross Chastain, though, I like him in fantasy as well. Ross, so again, he's starting 25th, so we have the opportunity to get some laps there. He was pretty decent in practice, 11th and 3rd in Group 2. Chastain also has 3 career top 5s. And in his last 5 races at Darlington, average start 17.8, average finish 7.8. 10 spot difference in the last 5. I think Chastain is good for fantasy. Gibbs, I'm really, really surprised Ty Gibbs is 14-1. He's starting 28th. As hot as he is, yes, on the track recently, but so is Bubba Wallace. So why is Bubba 16-1 and Ty Gibbs 14-1? Gibbs' average starting position here is 13.6. But his practice was good. I can excuse the 28. I can. It happens. But on this track, it just doesn't happen. So I just and I'm not happy about it. He was my long shot. I was getting 30-1 with Gibbs on Tuesday. So I'm not happy about it. But does that make any sense? He was 30-1 on Tuesday. He's now 14-1. Explain that to me. And Joey Logano, and yes, please explain that to me if anybody has a reaction to that. And Joey Logano, look, we mentioned this already this week. If there's ever been a top driver to stay away from in fantasy for a particular race coming up this season, it's Joey Logano. His average start to last 6 races is the same as his average finish, basically 15th. And this was before practice and qualifying. And he hasn't led a lap in his last 6 races. So he's not leading laps. He's not advancing. Yeah, why would you want to play Joey? And now he's done nothing today. So, yeah, I mean, doesn't that explain why he's 50-1? I mean, when was the last time you saw Joey Logano at 50-1 on anything other than a road course? Okay. So, once again, CJ went on Tuesday with Briscoe, Wallace, and Cindric. I went with Hamlin, Elliott, and Gibbs. And if I had to take a look now at how I would put it together, and I'm going to throw in the fantasy now over at DraftKings. This is how my fantasy team looks like now. So you always want to start with I always like to start, of course, where can I find some bargains early and see then if I can fill up my team. Well, Eric Jones, absolutely. And like I mentioned Chastain. I want to throw Chastain in there because I'd like to have at least a couple of drivers every week that I can get some laps in. May not lead laps, but I can get some additional movement in my favor based on their history, and maybe even get them inside the top 10 as a result. So right now, unless I change my mind, it's Chastain and Jones. And then I went with Elliott, Wallace, Buescher, and Keselowski. And I was able to fill it out. Now, Denny Hamlin, I'm going to think about it. The only problem is the price. So if I go with Denny, I'd probably, it would have to be Chastain because I'm not getting rid of Elliott. So if I did that, then I would have to find another 9.8, 10.8, 2,200. So if I find another 2,200, it means who else would I have to get rid of? I'd have to who would I drop? I'm not going to drop Wallace because I think he could win this race. I'd probably drop Buescher because I put Buescher and Keselowski equal, but I'm getting the 7 extra thousand there. So I'm going to drop Buescher. Well, let's see what happens if I do that. I could always fill this out. So let's say I get rid of Chastain and I add Hamlin. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm minus 2,200. So let's get rid of Buescher. Now let's see here. Will I take any of these drivers to do this? Who would I take? I got Dillon, but he's 10th. I guess Suarez. Yeah, I don't like the way McDowell's looking here. Let's put in for now. Let's put in Suarez. Okay, so would I prefer to have Hamlin and Suarez or Chastain and Buescher? You know what? I think I like this better. So then the question is, the next guy I would have to look at would only be one, and that would be Keselowski. Well, actually, it could be Jones too, but the difference is definitely the positioning here, the laps. I mean the difference. And if I'd have to completely ignore that in this race, which, to tell you the truth, may not be a bad idea. Look what Byron did last year. Nearly led all of the laps. So, and he was up front. What was he? Was he on the pole last year, Byron? Where was Byron last year? He was pole. So this is the type of racetrack where we're going to see, more than likely, history says you're getting it from the top drivers. So you are getting it from drivers like 5, 2, 3, 9, maybe, that sort of thing. So if I were to do that, let's say it's, again, one of these drivers. All right, so whoever it is, the fact is, if I were to drop Keselowski or Jones, let's say I dropped Jones, that would give me 7,700. Now, I'm not seeing anybody that I'm really over the moon with. Yeah, so I'm not seeing it because you can't take all the good drivers. Yeah, Cindric, but I can't rely on him. So yeah, I think this is it. I think this is a good one. The only other thing would be, like I said, if I dilly-dallied, if I screwed around with these three here, but that's not a lot of money. And again, there aren't any other drivers down here. The only other drivers, I mean, Cindric is 69. That's not bad. Take your mind off the gutter. So Cindric, and let's say if I eliminated Cindric, I mean, if I added Cindric and eliminated, let's just say I eliminated Jones, and now I get an extra 600. What would that do? Is there anyone else on here? How about Buescher? So I got an extra 600, but that's not enough for Buescher. Yeah, I don't think this is going to work out any other way. I'll tinker with it off the air, but I doubt it. So yeah, maybe that's it. I don't think that's bad, huh? I get Denny Hamlin. I get Bubba, who's hot. I get Chase, who I like this week. I got Keselowski, who looks good. So I got 4 winnable drivers. And I got a driver who has a great history here from the 24th position who can move up. Suarez is the only outlier, but he's really cheap, and he had a really good day. So I'm going to update that entry, and there you go. Okay. So that is going to wrap it up for our coverage here on Proline TV. And as far as picks, so let's wrap up with the picks, updated picks. So let me put the odds up there. All right, so definitely Hamlin. Hamlin is a home run at 8-1. Love Hamlin at 8-1. Keselowski and Buescher 25, 16-1. Wallace 16, and Elliott 14. Absolutely love all of them. Let me see if there's any contenders that is like a must-have. No, I don't think must-haves. throwing a buck or two on, the Eric Jones of the world, maybe even Chastain, because that's a big number. I don't think Chastain's odds should be like Logano's. Logano looks, at least Chastain's got something going for him. Yeah, I mean, even Nemechek I'd throw a buck on. And Cindric at 33-1. None of them really stick out, though, where I got to have these guys. But I would say, if just a couple of bucks, Chastain, Jones, Nemechek, and Cindric. But the real money is made here. And I would just tell you the truth. I could even include Blaney here now, because I have my shortest driver is Hamlin, 8-1. So I can go Hamlin, Blaney, Buescher, Keselowski, Elliott, Wallace. And I still have Hamlin 1, Elliott 2. And then I would just put Wallace, Keselowski, Buescher, and Blaney in that group as well. And there you go. So we'll see if we could cash in. And we thank you very much for tuning in. If you have any questions, if you want to let us know who you like, let me know what you think about some of the comments I made. What do you agree with, disagree with, and so forth and so on. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back again Tuesday for our Martinsville coverage. And then we've got a week off before Bristol. So it's Martinsville, break, Bristol. So I'll see you guys again next Saturday night for another one of these videos. And then I'll see everybody, of course, with CJ on Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in.